Quiet. I've got some bad news, folks.
You're listening to the RPM Podcast.
There's nothing I can do.
And here we are again, episode 153 of the RPM Podcast. It is October 7th, a little late tonight, 9:09 p.m. It's right after the big championship weekend over at Wall Stadium. I'm Scott Riggleman down at the Edge of Divorce Motorsports Studio in Manchester, New Jersey. Super spotter Tim Riggleman was actually just a spectator, so we'll call him the super spectator at Wall Stadium this weekend. How are you doing up in Farmingdale?
I'm great. Ready to go.
No spotting jobs this Saturday at Wall, huh?
No, somebody had to be there to take research for the RPM podcast.
Yeah. Okay, so he's RPM podcast researcher Saturday at Wall Stadium. And we have Josh Matthews. He's the Paramount Pools Employee of the Month this month. Josh is down in Waretown, New Jersey. How you doing, Josh?
Good. I met William Shatner yesterday.
Did you really?
Yeah. He was
He's a cool guy.
Asbury Park.
Was he really?
Yeah. It was a cool gig. I went with.
He's very laid back. He's a cool guy.
Tell us a little bit about that real quick, Josh. How'd that happen?
It was an anniversary gift from my wife. They showed a movie, and then Shatner comes out after the movie, does kind of a Q&A thing, and then there's a photo op after. So I got my picture with him and all that, and it was really cool. He told some funny stories. They talked about some behind-the-scenes stuff, and it wasn't just Star Trek stuff. It was all sorts of any subject you could imagine. They were talking about and just having a good time. And I went with a longtime friend of mine, someone I've known since like third grade. So it was just
What was the movie?
The Wrath of Khan.
I'm assuming William was in that movie?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that was the second Star Trek movie that they made. So, yeah.
So it was an old movie?
Oh, yeah, from 88 or something like that.
That's
where was
where
this at?
Leonard Nimoy played.
Yeah, the Paramount Theater, which is like the other side of Convention Hall.
Okay, cool. That sounds like
the front, like closer to the street there. And
That's haunted. That's haunted too.
I wouldn't be surprised.
That building looks haunted. I'll go with you guys on that one.
And another thing, something they've started apparently recently in Asbury Park is something called Spin, which is like scooter, not like regular scooter rental. They're electric, stand-up scooters, not like Vespa-looking things. But for like 15 cents a minute, you can rent these scooters to get around town. So you can park farther away and then scoot to wherever you're going, which is...
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And just to try it out, my friend and I, we went riding up and down the main street there, and we did a couple laps around a circle at the end and just goofed off a little bit, but...
Hey, Tim, when we were kids, we caught the tail end of it. I'm sure there's some older listeners out there. That used to be called the circuit in Asbury. Tim, remember going down there in the hot rod cars and cruising the circuit down there?
Yep.
Josh, you went around that block, and it was nothing but hot rods, and they would drag race from light to light. People would park in all the parking spots. It was like a big car show down there. We caught the tail end of it. My dad told me great stories about it when he was a kid. Me and Tim were, had our licenses late 80s, early 90s. We caught the very tail end of the cruising the circuit in Asbury Park, There was always, there's always these folklores, and it'd probably be a good little show for your topic for your other show. But there used to be a folklore, like a hot girl would be driving around in a Corvette down there, and her license plate would say, if you beat me, you can eat me, stuff like that. You always hold like stories like that. But me and Tim caught the end of it. We used to go down there on a Friday, Saturday night, and all the cars would be cruising around up and down the circuit and stuff.
They said cool. Bruce Springsteen had the biggest piece of crap race car that would break down every week. They said he would try to race and it would break down.
Oh, really?
He was busy writing music.
Yeah.
He didn't have time to fix no car.
So this is a racing podcast, so let's get to the racing.
Did you go to the pinball place while you were there?
I walked past it with my friend. We talked about it, but we didn't have much time. I
that place is awesome.
Yeah,
if anybody's ever at Asbury Park, what's it called? Silver Ball Museum, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Silver Ball Arcade, I think it's called.
Yeah, what a great place if you like pinball and old arcade games.
Basically what it is, you pay $10 or $20 for a wristband, and you go into this arcade, and there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pinball machines, and you just go in there and you play all day. It's like a one fee, pay all. You pay at the door, you get a wristband, you go in there. You don't have to put any change in the machines or anything. You just go in and play them. It's a good time.
And they do have the Playboy one, and they do have the Evil Knievel one.
Yeah.
Pinball
I think they
machines.
even have a couple of the Evil Knievel ones.
I wonder
Yeah.
what
Then
they
they got-
cost to maintain, though.
I don't know. I tell you what, they have some even like real old ones before, when
Oh,
pinball was
yeah.
different, like the old wooden ones and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They have ones like you shoot the pinball and it makes like a horse move and it's like a horse race. Like, every time you get the ball into a certain section, it moves your horse so far and there's two people playing. Whoever's horse makes it across first wins, stuff like that,
Okay, yeah. Oh, that'd be cool. No, we did walk past it and look at that. It was just a cool time. It was. I haven't seen the friend in quite some time, so it was a lot very enjoyable to go and hang out and just take in some relaxing time up in Asbury Park, and yeah, just fun. And now I can say I've met William Shatner, which is really cool. I mean, can you believe he's 88 years old?
Is he really that old? Wow.
88 years old.
I know him. I was never a big Star Trek guy. My brother liked Star Trek a little bit. I was never really into Star Trek. I more watched The Honeymooners and Cheers at 11 o'clock at night and not Star Trek. But I know him from Howard Stern show. He goes on the Howard Stern show a lot and promotes his stuff, and he's a great guy. He's funny. But they said he was like a real prick to work with back in the day. He was like,
I've heard things about him being like self-centered and things like that. And well, we were going to see him, so he was telling story, which
it was
was
all
fine.
on him.
Yeah,
all attention was on him.
Yeah.
Did you go to any restaurants down there? I tell you what,
we went to the Wonder Bar.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I had a burger. We both had a burger and a couple beers, and then we scooted after having a few beers. Probably not the smartest thing, but and then we saw the thing. And then we scooted some more, and then I'm trying to say this. I'm trying to get Tim to talk about Scooter here, but
I really like Asbury.
Yeah, supposedly there's a picture in the Wonder Bar of Bruce Springsteen at Wall Stadium.
Oh, really?
now I'm gonna have to go back and research it, Tim.
Me and Nancy, when racing season calms down, we always like going over to Asbury. They've made a lot of nice restaurants over on Cookman Avenue, so we'll go over there and eat, or we'll go to like the arcade and stuff like that. It's pretty cool over there. I like Asbury. It's a shame it went all downhill there for a while, but it's making a comeback. I actually had my junior prom there.
Really?
That big hotel at the end. We had her.
What is that? The Watermark now, or are you talking about the old Howard Johnson, which is now Tim McClune's?
It's
the big one
at the north side, right before a pond, Tim, where you used to fish with Teddy over there.
Oh, I know what you're talking about now. Okay,
that real big brick one in the middle.
The name's on the tip of my tongue. Johnny Cash had something to do with that.
Wasn't it like the Regency or something like that, I forget. That's where we had my junior prom there. It was actually pretty nice.
I will be going back in November for there's a girl out of Colts Neck that plays guitar and sings and all that, and I'm just a ugly old man that has a crush on her, and she plays at the Asbury Hotel, which is right.
Berkeley Carteret was the name of that hotel.
Berkeley Carteret.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a cool town.
Story I want to tell before we get on to the racing. Bear with us. But one thing me and my brother had to tolerate with my mom when we were kids, every Easter she would take us to Asbury Park to the convention center.
Torture.
The Easter bonnet show.
Torture, Josh Matthews.
Yeah, torture. We have to sit there and see all the Easter bonnets these women were wearing and stuff like that. But the one cool thing that my dad would drive us by and show us was there was a house, and the guy painted his front porch like a mountain scene, like a river mountain scene.
Okay.
And his steps looked like a waterfall. Like he painted his steps and it looked like rocks and a waterfall and everything. And like all the way down his like walkway out to the sidewalk, it looked like you were looking at a mountain, waterfall, river scene. It was really, really cool. We used to drive by there all the time. Tim, you remember that house?
Yeah, that stayed there for it's long gone now, but that stayed there up until I had my driver's license, I think.
It wasn't the story that guy got murdered, or he actually murdered somebody?
So, he went to jail for something.
Yeah, he actually murdered somebody and went to jail.
Oh,
the guy that painted.
Better than staying on the loose, I guess.
Yeah. So I know a lot of you old timers out there that listen to the show probably have some great Asbury Park stories if you want to share.
If you want to go to Asbury Park now, Christmas time is a good time to go. They put a big Christmas tree up in Convention Hall where you walk through it.
Okay.
It's a good time if you have kids. They do all kinds of arts and crafts in there. And the reason why the Paramount Hotel or the Paramount Theater is haunted, they had a dressing room fire in there. And supposedly there's still parts of the dressing room that are still charred black. They never redid it.
Wow.
That's where the ghosts are.
I'm gonna start looking this up while Scott talks about NASCAR.
I saw I
All
saw
right, guys.
Green Day there, Paramount.
Really?
Yeah.
I saw a lot of bands at Stone Pony. I don't think I ever saw anything in the convention center. I think I seen wrestling though in the convention center, like WWE.
Oh yeah, we went
style
to wrestling there.
Yeah,
Yeah, we seen Superfly Snooker there.
yeah. I went to wrestling there. I love Asbury. I think you guys bring it back up. I want to take a look at and see what's going on there.
No, else is pretty cool there. Teddy got me into it was the roller derby. That's pretty intense. It's kind of like racing. They go around a circle, you know.
Yeah.
That's probably the most insulting thing for either sport. They go around in a circle.
They go around in a circle and wreck each other. So
yeah, that's what they do. It's kind of like the sportsman racing.
All right, guys. NASCAR. It was Cup weekend down at Dover. A lot of people go from this area go down to Dover. The racing's good at Dover. It's a mile track, so the action's right in front of you. The grandstands are great. They did have the Xfinity there and Cup there. They also had the K&N East cars there on Friday. Unfortunately, they only had 14 K&N East cars there, which is way down.
I went to that race a few years ago, back when Ryan Truex was running that series.
Okay. Yeah, cool. Yeah. I mean, I went there last year. That's the race I went to last year when I had a tow down there, and I stopped in there, and Bruce Cook gave me pit passes and everything. I was down there last year. They actually finished third last year with the Brandon McReynolds driving the car when I was down there with them. This year they had Brandon McReynolds driving for them also, and they ended up finishing ninth in that race, which was disappointing for them. They actually had a left front spring go bad, like collapse, and they were trying to beef it up with spring rubbers in the pit stops, and they just never really got the car going. So it even shows you at that level of racing, there's mechanical failures and problems, you know.
So does the spring just? I mean, do you over compress it and then it just goes, or maybe it was from manufacturing? It had a weak spot.
Could be a little bit of both.
Okay.
Who knows? You know, I got a spring rater in my shop. I check my springs. I mean, there's springs that you have that are supposed to be 1,400 pounds. You check them after a year of racing, they're down to 1,200 pounds. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, okay.
They do lose their tension. It's a spring. Of course, it's going to lose tension. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
All right. So the Xfinity cars were at Dover. I did not get to see the Xfinity race. I was at Wall Stadium racing. Josh was away for the weekend. Tim, did you watch the Xfinity race?
Nope. No Kyle Busch. No sense to watch.
And you know what? That's the one thing I did notice. Now that they're in their playoffs, their NASCAR playoff point races, no Cup drivers are allowed in these races. And the one thing I did notice, I checked the results, and Nancy was in the truck with me when we left Wall Stadium. I checked the results. I said, Nance, I tell you what, I love racing, and I follow it real close. There's 15 people in here I never even heard of. You know, you lose the big names. You lose the interest in the crowd. That's one bad thing that people don't understand about not having Cup drivers in these races. You know.
Right. I see where you're going with that. I mean, I kind of get the whole thing of letting them not letting them be a factor in,
The points.
Yeah, but at the same time,
Right.
Makes for a boring race.
All right, Josh. So, well, since none of us saw this race, and we apologize to our listeners that we don't have much information on the Xfinity race, can you at least give us the RPM podcast top 10 for the Xfinity race down at Dover?
I certainly can. Cole Custer gets the win, followed by Justin Allgaier, Austin Cindric, Haley, Briscoe, Annette, Gregson, Nemechek, Smith, and Sieg are your top 10. What else? I believe I saw a picture of Chris Gall with his scanner on, saying he was listening to Garrett Smithley's radio, running 20 laps down in 37th place or something.
You picked a good one to listen to. Hey, listen to them all. I tell you what, though, that Cole Custer, man, he's been really kicking some butt this year at the Xfinity race, and he is the son of the guy that runs Stewart Haas Racing. The general manager of Stewart Haas Racing is his father. I'm telling you, he's gonna be. Everybody's wondering what's going to happen to the Daniel Suarez car or the Eric Almirola car over at Stewart Haas, or even the Clint Boyer car. You know, he's in a contract year himself. Sooner or later, they're going to have to make room for this kid up there with Cole Custer. Some people are even saying he might be taking the 32 car over for Corey LaJoie and becoming a satellite team of Stewart Haas Racing. That's yet to be seen. The the Ford Motor Company and Stuart Haas are sooner or later going to have to get this kid up to the Cup level. He's winning everything in this Xfinity series, so he's one of those stars on the rise, and it's I'm going to wait to see where he ends up.
Scott, what's your opinion on adding a ride? I mean, you're talking about let's say maybe there's a 3-car team, maybe making it a 4-car team to make room for him. I mean,
well, that's what I mean. He's a Stuart Haas guy, and they already have 4 Cup cars, so they're done. They can't add no more there. So what they do then is they go to a lower tier team and kind of like the '95 car with Joe Gibbs. What they're doing with Christopher Bell going over there,
right?
They're talking about Stuart Haas pulling a deal like that with the 32 car, and basically it's a Stuart Haas car, but it's out of the 32 shop, and they make a business deal. And give
That's
them
like the alliance and all
yeah,
that.
it's an alliance. Yeah, it's another way around the rule. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I'm just saying, making another car to run because you look at the 40-car limit now, and still we're seeing races with only 38 cars.
Yeah, no, I understand that too. If the money's there, yeah, of course they can make that 32 team 2 cars. They can make it, number 33 and 32, and keep Corey LaJoie in the 32 business as usual there, and start a whole new team if the money's available to do it.
Right. Okay.
I mean, the 78 team did it with Martin Truex when they had nowhere to put Eric Jones. Remember, they put him in the 77 car over there.
Okay.
For a year. Before they could get him over into the Gibbs deal. So, yeah, no, that happens also too, Josh. It comes down to money and resources and stuff like that.
It's always about money.
It's always about money. All right, moving on to the Cup stuff. What happened right at the beginning of the race, Josh? Did you hear anything about that?
I didn't even get to watch highlights yet.
All right. Before the green flag even came out, Joe Logano was in the pits. Take a guess what for, Josh?
Belts came loose.
Nope, he spit out an axle. We haven't talked about that lately.
Oh, wow.
Lately. Yep. So we've been talking about the dry flanges breaking, the freaking axle break. He didn't even take the green flag. It was under like the warm-up laps behind the pace cars. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And they showed it clear as day. There was an axle laying on the track, and the dry flange, the aluminum dry flange at the end on the hub was laying right next to it. So that blew off, and the axle spit right out. And really ruined the whole rear. It took him a while to get it fixed before he can make it back out. He got lucky, though, because they threw the green flag, and he was in the garage, and he was fixing the car, and he got lucky because then another yellow came out because not very far into the race, maybe 10 or 15 laps, Chase Elliott's motor blew up. So
wow, you don't see that often either.
You had 2 top teams behind the wall within 15 laps of a race, which is very, very weird.
And
but it's just weird how, like last year we were talking about the axle spitting out. We haven't talked about that lately, and then all of a sudden it's happening again. So, but I'm telling you, that whole dry flange was laying out on the track, and that's what secures the axle into the rear. And it didn't look broke or nothing. I'm telling you, somebody that just never tightened it up. You know what I'm saying? Like
it just slid right out. Yeah,
it just fell right off. So. It was a weird thing because they never even got up to speed. So why would it break? You know what I'm saying?
So, well, that goes back to like when Kyle Busch had those loose lug nuts at the start of the race because nobody ever torqued them before they went out, which
it just drives me crazy because they got 20 guys standing around in pretty uniforms. Everybody's on their cell phones and taking pictures, but that one guy forgot to tighten those 2 little bolts. You know what I'm saying? But meanwhile, he's just standing around doing nothing.
I mean, come on. How much does a couple Ugga-Duggas take?
So, I mean, I watched the Cup race. I watched the beginning of it. I was exhausted from Saturday night, and then I worked on my car all Sunday morning. So I did fall asleep, not because the race was boring, it's just because I was tired. And I did wake up at the very end to watch Kyle Larson win.
Spoiler.
They were racing hard. The crowd was good. It wasn't great, but the crowd was good for what looked like could have been a rainy, gloomy, cloudy day.
Right.
You'd have a decent crowd there. It wasn't sold out or packed by any means, but it was a good, solid crowd. Another thing that was weird about this race, which I don't like, Josh, it was a 3 p.m. start.
Okay,
that's late for Dover.
I was going to say, what did you not like? Was it too late for you?
Too late.
Okay.
I mean, I like when the races start at 1 o'clock. You know what's funny? A couple of my friends were at Wall Stadium, and they're like, we got to get out of here. I said, why is that? They're like, we're going to Dover tomorrow. I'm like, okay. He's like, yeah, we're leaving 5:30 in the morning. I'm like, for what? I said, they don't get the crowds like they used to. Plus, it's a 3 o'clock start. You're going to be down if you leave here at 5:30 in the morning. You're going to be down there by 8 a.m., 8:30. What do you do from 8:30 in the morning to 3 p.m.? And now you're not getting out of there. I don't think the race got over to like 6 o'clock. You know?
The sun's setting. I mean, like honestly, if
Yeah.
you get more than like 4 cautions, I
Yeah.
mean, they don't have proper lighting there. I mean, they probably turn on whatever they have.
It
But
was just driving me crazy because like all the pre-race stuff came on at like 1:30, 2 o'clock, and people were just literally sitting by their race car waiting for 3 o'clock. There was absolutely nothing going on. It's like, come on, just let's get this race started, man. The 3 o'clock. I know why they're doing it. They're doing it because of football and all that stuff.
yeah.
But I mean, just 1 o'clock's the when there's a race on the East Coast. 1 o'clock is the perfect time.
Well,
you know?
I'll say this time of year
I can get up in the morning, have breakfast, go unload my race car stuff, be at my garage at noon, 12:30, come in the house, have a little lunch. 1 o'clock, the race is on. You know?
Yeah.
Like 3 o'clock, I'm like, my day's kind of over on a Sunday. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's just I don't know. I mean, 1 o'clock's but I don't like these 3 o'clock starts on the East Coast.
Maybe midsummer it's not as bad because you have a lot of daylight left. But this time of year, the sun's setting pretty early. Yeah, I agree. You bump it up a little bit.
Plus, the people like Josh, how you and your father would go down there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you go out of work on the drop of a dime anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But I'm just saying. but now you're down there to 6 o'clock. Now you're not getting home at 9, 10 o'clock at night. Where before, if it starts at 1, now the race is over by 4. You're home by 7. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Between the drive back or trying to catch that last ferry that's heading back to Jersey. Last year we went. My wife, my dad, my son, and we all went, and we had a good time. Now we got there fairly early, which was. I don't mind getting there a bit early to get some food and look at a few things, and maybe you look at the trailers, maybe get some merchandise. They had the kid zone or whatever, the fan zone or whatever. So Bryce was.
I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong, there is stuff to do there, but man,
I wouldn't get there at 8:30. No.
No, now with a 3 o'clock start, I'm leaving here at 9. You know what I'm saying? Getting down there at noon, 1, park, 2 o'clock into the track, walk around for an hour. Race starts at 3. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. We let him do the bounce houses and.
People up here are still treating it like it's a 1 o'clock start, and the place is still packed where it's 2 hours to get into the track. Now you just drive right in. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
And you drive right out. You know.
Well, it's been right sized.
Another thing I want to talk about. You know what? Let's do the top 10. Let's close Dover, and there's 2 other things I want to talk about in NASCAR. So give us the RPM top 10 for the Dover race.
All right. So with the win, Kyle Larson in second, pulling a Scott Riggleman. We have Martin Truex Jr., Alex Bowman, Kevin Harvick, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, Matt DiBenedetto, Jimmy Johnson, another top 10 for him, Kyle Busch, and Clint Boyer rounding out the top 10.
I tell you, Clint Boyer's had a good. He's had a top. I think he finished 6th last race, so he's in the top 10 in the last 2 races. Jimmy Johnson too. Let's give a call out to him. He's 2 top 10s in a row now. It seems like he's got his little season turned around a little too late, but like he said, he's getting ready for next year.
Yeah.
And talking with Jimmy Johnson, an interesting thing was announced this week that not him, but his sponsors, that Alley or whatever it is, they signed for multiple years now. They're signed till 2023 now.
Wow.
And he's only signed through 2020. So the option's there for him to stay. He's fully funded. It's up to him if he's going to stay. So that's going to be something interesting. He did touch on it a little bit in some interviews. He says he's not ready to announce anything. Right now, he's going to do the 2020 season and then decide what he wants to do after then. So that's something to keep an eye on.
I saw a post recently. It said like he's the only driver that's been there that was there 10 years ago. I mean, Kyle Busch has been around.
No, it was him. It was him and Kevin Harvick.
Okay.
Kevin Harvick's another one, and another milestone that Kevin Harvick reached this week was like 653 starts or something. Now somebody says he's got this same exact amount of starts as Dale Earnhardt Sr. did when Dale Earnhardt Sr. passed away. So that Kevin's been racing a while now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All right. So what did you want to bring up?
Oh, of course, I love mentioning another podcast on here. I've been listening to of course, the Dale Jr. one. He had Marcus Smith on. Marcus Smith is, the guy that owns the Charlotte Motor Speedway and all the other tracks. He's his son, so he's the president of Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Okay.
And since Dale Jr. wrecked his plane, God forbid he only had 1 plane, so he doesn't have 2 planes because times are tough. He's been flying to all the races with Marcus Smith, And I guess he did this a little bit last year when his plane was in for service. He flew out to the West Coast with Marcus Smith, so he got some time to talk racing with Marcus Smith and promotion and all this stuff. And he said to Marcus Smith, he's like, "Hey, man, you know what I really like?" And Marcus Smith's like, "No, what's that, Dale Jr.? What do you really like?" He's like, "I really like when you have a Ferris wheel at the racetrack." He's like, "It makes it look like something's happening. Something exciting's happening there." And he said ever since that conversation, that's when Marcus Smith started having the Ferris wheel at all these racetracks.
Well, there we go. We finally got our answer, thanks to Dale Jr.
And he did say, he never explained why, but he says, "I try to get him at as most tracks as I can, but sometimes it's not available." So maybe the guy that used with the Ferris wheel can't make a few races, so that determines when the Ferris wheel can be there and when the Ferris wheel can't be there.
I'm surprised they wouldn't use a more local company in each area. I mean, you don't want to have you can't expect a Ferris wheel to have to travel, cross country, literally.
But he definitely said it was.
Bruton Smith has enough money to buy his own Ferris wheel.
Yeah, exactly. So it was by the recommendation of Dale Jr. that, for the simple reason, it just looks like something exciting is happening at the racetrack when the Ferris wheel is there. So that's why they have the Ferris wheel. I thought that was pretty cool. A couple other things they talked about. Tim, I know you tried calling me yesterday, but I was sleeping. I've been meaning to talk to you about this, but every time I talk to you, I forget. I want you to listen to that podcast only because another thing, because you and Josh are into this stupid, what do you call it, conspiracy stuff? When Charlotte Motor Speedway was first built, it was
a graveyard or something, right?
Well, no, the infield was real low. It was so low to the point where you were in a hole and you actually laid on your back, and it looked like, they said the corners looked like mountains. That's how high they looked. So Bruton Smith wanted to fill it in, and he wanted to make money at the same time. So they actually made it a landfill. And he was letting the townships and the counties dump garbage in it, and then he was going to top it over with topsoil. And Dale Jr. said his father always told him in 1988 or 1989, and that's when the landfill stuff was going on. I think Marcus Smith said it was from 88 to 91. It took them that long to fill it up with that garbage. And he said Max Trading Cards. Remember Max Trading Cards, Tim? They were the card company that made all the, like baseball cards, but for NASCAR, like, Dale Sr., Neil Bonnet, and all them. Well, they went out of business at the time, and they had all the Max cards made for the 89 season getting ready to sell, and they went into foreclosure, and the bank shut them down, and took kind of like a hostile takeover, locked them out, and they couldn't sell any in their inventory. And the rumor was that they had a warehouse full of these Max trading cards ready to go, and they all got dumped at the Charlotte landfill at Charlotte Speedway. So Dale Sr. always wanted to dig them up, and get them in. And now Marcus Smith is saying they are going to do some digging there to do some buildings, and he's allowing Dale Jr. to come and look for these Max cards that were dumped there. But now it's been almost 20 years. They got to be gone by now.
No, believe it or not.
If they were already sealed in that foil.
Yeah, well, that's what they're saying. Because they're packaged in packs and they're hold tight. The top 20 might be ruined, but the ones in the middle might be okay.
Yeah.
Two things I got to say to what you just said. The first thing, it wasn't Charlotte on the burial ground. It was Talladega that was supposed to be built on a burial ground. And second one of that, we just said we didn't think the cards would still be there. There's a documentary on Atari where when they went bankrupt, they buried all the ET games.
Yes. And they actually found a bunch.
And they actually dug them up, and they found them. They were still there. Still playable.
They're plastic cartridges.
Yeah, but the cardboard boxes and stuff were all still there.
Oh, really? All right. Yeah, maybe. So supposedly that, he's allowed Dale Jr. to go there when they dig to build something there, and they're going to look for these Max trading cards that's rumored to be dumped there.
I'll do a TV show. I want to make $1 million. Perfect.
And another thing Dale Jr. was trying to tell Marcus Smith, he wants Bristol back to asphalt. He said the concrete kills the race in there. He wants it back in asphalt like it was in the 90s. He wants it back like the way it was in the 90s, but he had another idea. He says, let's bust up the concrete and dig it up. While the concrete is dug up, let's put clay down for 1 year and let the March race at Bristol be a dirt race for the Cup cars at Bristol. And then when that race is over, we'll scoop the clay back up and we'll make it asphalt for the night race. So that's something they're talking about. But Marcus Smith kind of laughed at that one. So I don't know if Dale Jr.'s got the power to make that one happen.
Well,
he's got the clout.
Yeah.
Did they say anything to him about Wilkesboro?
Yeah, they did talk about Wilkesboro, and they are, Marcus Smith did give Dale Jr. the keys to go over there to clean up and cut the weeds, so the iRacing guy can go over there and do his digital scan of the track to make an iRacing track of it.
What was it that I think Sam actually shared something earlier? They were talking about that lost airbase speedway.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then they found it. They found more information on it. The same YouTuber that did that video did another one talking about. I think it was North Wilkesboro. I think Sam shared that today. If I can find it, I will share it back on the page.
So yeah, anybody out there listening and my brother, definitely go check out the Dale Jr. podcast with Marcus Smith on there. It was real cool stories because Marcus Smith and Dale Jr. kind of grew up. They're kind of the same age. And it almost sounded like Marcus Smith and Kelly Earnhardt dated for a little while. So, it was two kids growing up. Marcus Smith's dad was a prominent race track owner and promoter. And Dale Jr.'s, of course, dad was a prominent race car driver. So it was cool because you had two kids that had prominent fathers in the business, but opposite sides of the business. You know what I'm saying? Like one was a track owner and promoter. The other one was a racer. And we always know racers and promoters have different outlooks on racing, so it was cool watching them grow up, and talking about them growing up, and it was pretty cool because I guess Dale Jr. and Marcus Smith became such good friends. Dale Jr. used to sleep at Marcus Smith's house and stuff, and Bruton Smith would have to call Dale Sr. and say, hey, listen, Dale's over here sleeping over, hanging out with Marcus. So they sound like they're pretty good friends. It's a real good interview. It's real cool. Check it out. And they talk about the past racing and the future of racing, and it's pretty cool.
So was that both things then, Scott, for you?
Yeah, the Marcus. Oh no, we wanted to talk about Michael Waltrip talking about getting rid of live pit stops.
I see where there would be cost savings. I see the downside of a lot of people would lose jobs. But for the team to, I mean, the truck series started out with the competition cautions.
Exactly.
But where do you get if there's no crew members for those two divisions, where do they come from?
Just to let people know, Michael Waltrip said on his podcast, which is Michael Waltrip Unfiltered, another good podcast. He mentioned a way they can do cost savings, not in the Cup Series, just in the truck and in the Xfinity Series, is to get away from live pit stops. Meaning you're still going to have tire changers and everything, but it's not going to be a speed thing. He wants it so you call out how many tires you're going to take, and they allow you time to do that. And then when you come back out on the track, he wants to be able to call either 2, 3, or 4 tires. And of course, if the guys come in and change 2 tires, they're going to start in front of the guys that change 4 tires. But they have a couple minutes to change them. This way, you don't have to pay guys that are super fast extra money to be on your team. So there's still going to be tire changers and a jackman and everything like that to do the work. It's just not going to be super skilled labor where, say Jack whatever is the fastest right front tire changer in the country, and now people are paying him hundreds and $1,000s more to be the tire changer on their team. It's going to
I kind of disagree. If I heard you right, if they can lose the position on the pit road for changing tires or whatever, like say, can you take 2 and I take 3?
Yeah.
I came out first. As long as you can still lose the position in there, they're still going to pay.
See, but you want to lose the decision because of speed. It's because you took 3 tires and not 2. So you still got to decide 2, 3, or 4 tires.
So what happens if the guy with 3 tires gets his tires done before the guy has 2? The guy
he's still going to start behind the guy that took 2 because in the old days, if you had a fast pit stop, of course, the people that took 2 tires would be faster and they would be off pit road faster.
So now when we ride around for 6 laps of caution, they can figure out.
And Tim, you are right, because not only does the lower series develop drivers to move up to the Cup Series, they also develop crewmen. So that's where they're going to learn how to change tires fast. And
what if we did it just the truck series?
I'd be fine with that because, like Josh was saying, when the truck series first started, we had an intermission. We had a midway break, and they would make their adjustments and change. And
with the stages, I mean, it would play in even better. And if you look at Formula E, they still have great racing, competitive racing, and they have a mandatory 60-second. Like if you take longer, you can lose position, but they make a minimum a minimum pit stop time when you're changing cars so that the drivers get belted in properly and are not trying to go out there with their belts half done. Because,
Right, exactly.
because race car drivers are stupid. Me included. And they'll do stupid risks to try to gain position. So they make it a mandatory minimum time that they have to be in there so that way they get their belts on. And we're looking at essentially the same thing with this rule. So you get, let's say they make it 5 minutes. I'm totally BS number. You wouldn't need that long. But then you could have one guy changing the tires, instead of having to pay, 8 guys to come out. So you have one guy holding the air hose behind the wall. You have the guys changing the tire, the other guy that's handing him the tire. Then you have the jackman and the fuel guy. And you can have one guy do all of that within 5 minutes, and now you're not losing positions because of it. So that would allow. And I know there are some really, really low budget. I mean, you think of Norm Benning, a guy that does everything to get there, and how much he's going to have to spend, or Morgan Shepherd, who will try to qualify for Xfinity races, and I mean, he's looking for people to help him with tires, and to pay the tire bill all the time, looking for sponsors and stuff, because he's still out there trying to make it. And if he didn't have to have a crew to pay or try to find, volunteers. A lot of people don't want to do it for free at that level anyway. I mean, you go.
Scott and Nancy would do it. They'd be out there.
Oh yeah. I'm saying a lot of people won't, but there are some people who will. But now, if Scott and Nancy want to do that, are they going to travel with Morgan Shepherd?
Right.
All the time, or and Scott, how many races of your own are you going to miss, or how many tow calls are you going to miss to do that?
We do two usually with the modified tour. There's like 1 or 2 times a year that we'll do the whatever you want to call it, pit break or whatever you want to call it,
a competition caution, essentially.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. It's okay. It's not a horrible thing, but it does stop the flow of the race, and a lot of the fans don't like it. They would rather see live pit stops.
I mean, let's face it. I mean, live pit stops are exciting. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, Tim, when we were kids, we go to race trains. We love when those modifieds came down pit road and they'd stop and you hear the guns zinging and everything. And Richie Evans would beat Jeff Bodine off pit road. It was exciting,
Until John Jr. came out there with the lug wrench. Remember that?
John Jr. hit it with a flat. Big Eddie came out with a lug wrench.
Oh boy.
I don't know. I think it would be okay. Personally, I'm not as excited about pit stops as everybody else. I like it coming down more to car setup and how the driver deals with the car setup. I like it more about that than how fast a guy can do lug nuts. What they can do is really impressive, how fast they can change those tires. I'm not denying that. That doesn't do it for me. I don't think that should play as much of a role. It's my personal opinion. I'm sure
that makes it more of the team effort, though.
No, I see what you're saying, but I don't necessarily need that. I can watch
just so
hockey.
everybody knows, this is Michael Waltrip talking. This is not NASCAR talking in any way.
Yeah.
This is a Michael Waltrip idea. Check it out. See what he's got to say. Michael Waltrip Unfiltered. I mean, he was a car owner. He knows the expense. He was a
bad car owner. That's why he wants
Xfinity. Or yeah, I mean, he failed. Like many people do.
Well, I mean, we can't deny that it would save the team's money. But it would also put a ton of people out of jobs too. So I mean,
it would make the racing less exciting? Well, I think anyway. And people are already saying it's not exciting. So you're just taking another element of excitement out of the race, which I don't think we need it right now.
Yeah. All right. Well,
I made a pit stop Saturday night though.
I heard
it was
about
a live
that.
one too. It was a live one.
We'll get to that in the local. Jeff
had to run over
much about NASCAR, so
people had to run over and tripping over themselves and putting wrong tires on. It was a great pit stop.
Any other?
See, that's why you should have. See, Scott would have benefited from not losing position.
But in all honesty, Wall Stadium does give you 3 laps. If you have a flat tire, they give you 3 laps to get it.
Most depending on who you are.
Yeah,
most of the time.
All right, guys. So that wraps up. That wraps up NASCAR. We are going to move to the local section.
Minus one quick thing. I sent you guys that tweet earlier from, I think, what was it, Drunken Brian France?
Yeah.
Natalie Decker tweeted, "I'm so ready," and they replied with, "Oh no, you're not." Which
I'm not saying if she's ready or not ready, but she is not living up to hype and expectations. That's for sure.
oh, she's not, but she is pretty.
She is pretty, and she is a truck on the racetrack, and we need trucks on the racetrack right now.
Yep.
You know?
Not tow trucks.
Right.
Okay, now we're done with NASCAR. I'm good now.
We want to move to local and mainly Wall Stadium because that was our big championship night. And it was the last race of the points series. All the divisions were there, 7 features. It was kind of a long night because of the 7 features. I really like when they have 4 features, maybe 5 at the most, but 7's tough, man. It's a lot of racing. My brother said it went pretty smooth, though. He liked having the 7 divisions there. For me, because the factory stocks were last, it felt like forever before we went on.
Well, Tim also didn't have to work, so.
No, I didn't have a
He
spot.
was there taking notes for the RPM podcast.
Yeah.
Yes.
I tell you what, though, when we did first get there and after the drivers' meeting and lineups were after practice and our heat race lineups were posted, I walked up to look at my heat race lineups, and I glanced over to the grandstands, and it was empty. There was barely anybody there at 5:30. Heat races start at 5:45, 6 o'clock. But by the time we rolled out on the track for the heat races, it filled up pretty good. And by feature, we had a great crowd. We really did. Mm-hmm. For as chilly as it was, as cold as it was, and on Dover weekend, because a lot of people that go to Wall Stadium also go to Dover. I was very impressed with the crowd.
And let's not forget, King of the Green was going on at Evergreen as well. So
a lot of stuff going on in our area, and Wall Stadium still pulled a good crowd. Not as good as Napa night, of course, but it was still a good crowd. And I want to thank all the race fans for coming out on a chilly night to watch the champions be crowned at Wall Stadium.
The fans were really into all the racing. Like they were cheering for their favorite driver. Somebody would pass somebody. The crowd was really into the racing Saturday night.
And I tell you what, our announcers do a great job of keeping you updated on what's going on with the points and who's racing for the points and where they're at on the track and how many spots they got to pick up or how many spots the point leader has to finish to clinch and stuff like that. It was exciting. It was a good night of racing over there. It was a lot of fun. But I tell you what, at 6 o'clock, I was nervous because the place looked empty. I thought it was going to be a flop, but the place did fill up by 7 o'clock. It was pretty full. Car counts were pretty good. It was a fun night of racing. I had a good time. We want to congratulate our champions. Josh, you have our list of our champions?
No, I don't.
Well, I know Stephen Reed won the modifieds. Congratulations to Stephen Reed. That wasn't so exciting because I think they only had 16 or 17 modifieds. So all he had to do was take the green flag to clinch, which he did. He took the green flag and he clinched and he raced. So Stephen Reed became the Wall Stadium modified champion. In the legend cars, it was Sean Verways. Tim, that's Bill Verways' grandson. We remember Bill Verways racing back in the street stock days with our dad. He had a light blue number 88 old Duster Plymouth. Beat the hell, but man, that car would fly. It was always fast. I think he had 11 wins in one season there, and we always liked talking to Bill. And he was a Staten Island guy who he used to race at the Wise Class Speedway, and then Wise Class closed. He was looking for a place to race, so he came down to Wall Stadium and started racing there. And he became some friends with our dad, and he was real cool guy. I would still see him up at Mountain because he was racing up there, so I always would talk to him at the banquets and stuff like that. So his grandson won the legend car race, the legend car championship, I should say. Brian Sisko's son, Kyle Sisko. Mm-hmm. Kyle Sisko was able to win the sportsman division title. Elliott Wall and Marty Van Druten Senior's number 17 Bandit factory stock. He was able to win the factory stock division. 4 cylinders went to our very own Neil Rutt III. Neil Rutt III, he's a member of the RPM podcast, and he comes on with us when he can. So congratulations to Neil Rutt. And I was also happy for Neil Rutt's dad. I mean, he's been around that racetrack as long as me and Tim. For him to celebrate a track championship with his son, that was really, really cool. Is that all the divisions? I know the TQs are there, but I don't know.
Limited late models, Chris Silvestri.
By 1 point. That was exciting.
Yeah.
He actually, if Shannon Maggio won, that kid had to finish second in the 74 car. And for the longest time, he was in third. And he had to pass. He had to pass the Rooster, or he wasn't going to win that championship. He was going to lose it by a point. And him and the Rooster were going at it pretty good. And then the Rooster broke like an axle or something. But Chris was able to pass the Rooster, and on the one restart, the Rooster was able to pass Chris back. So that, even though there was only 6 or 7 cars, that was probably pretpretty exciting.
Yeah, it was good. It was fun to watch.
Yeah, it was fun to watch. So Shannon Monjo fell 1 point short, but Shannon said it didn't really bother him because he missed the race with the late model, so that kind of screwed him up for the points. But yeah, it came down to that one car. It's just amazing how you can race all year long and it comes down to a couple points. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And that kid was pretty happy that he won it.
Yeah, he was so excited. It was his first year. He moved up from the 4-cylinder division, bought a late model. That was Harry Schaefer's old late model, Josh.
Okay.
The old Red 38. They bought that, and it was his first year in the late model. So for him to pull off a track championship was pretty cool, and I'm real happy for that family.
The TQs, they didn't have a champion listed, but the winner was Jeffrey Sutton.
They still have one more race.
Okay.
Bethel, I think.
So it's like what? It was like a tri-track series, or
they're a traveling series. Yeah.
I want to mention one thing before we get to the top 10s of the feature. And for some reason, Josh, we're gonna have to do a top 11 for the factory stock division. But when you do that for us, you got to do the top 11. One thing that disappointed me a little bit. I mean, I won tons of championships. I think I got 3 factory stock truck championships over there. I got Enduro championships. I won a ton in the truck series. And my brother never once came to victory lane and kissed me on the lips when I won a championship.
Yeah, damn right I didn't.
It was just a funny picture going around on the internet. Jeff Creed and Elliot.
Disturbing picture going around.
Jeff Creed and Elliot Wall had a picture of him kissing.
We have to accept Elliot for who he is.
And then I got word back because after the races, Elliot was in tech. I finished 5th, so I wasn't in tech. Elliot finished 3rd, I think, and he was in tech, and I finished
second for him.
Elliot was second.
Mikey Montano got 3rd.
Yeah, Shannon Monjo was 4th, and I was 5th. And Brian O'Shea won the race. Brian was flying. That's 2 in a row for Brian. Good for Brian. Brian finished the year very strong. But going back to victory lane, I was loading my car up. I was loading Nancy's car up, loading all my stuff up. Elliot was in tech, and then Elliot went from tech right over to victory lane. So I really didn't get to see him much. And then I did go in his trailer to get changed, and I congratulated him for winning the championship and everything like that. And I got word the next day that he was mad that I didn't congratulate him for winning the championship, but I did. I changed, I got out of my fire suit and into my street clothes in his trailer, and I did congratulate him while I was in there. But yeah, the next day that picture circulated on the internet. I said, I take it back. I don't congratulate you for winning the championship.
Now, Scott, you finished, I believe you said 2nd in points for the year?
Yeah. Yes.
That's kind of the year you had, though, with a lot of 2s.
I tell you what, there was one point I did get within 9 points of Elliott from pretty far back, but then the next week, that's when Johnny Carpenter's radiator cap came off, and I got caught in that, and when he dumped water on the track, and I got caught up in that wreck, and I lost points, and I was never able to catch him back up again.
Right.
But I do want to congratulate Big Marty. Big Marty's been around that racetrack forever. He did win championships as a crew member with Gil Hearn. This is his first track championship as a car owner. So congratulations to Big Marty. I'm really happy for him. But another, Josh, I'm going to go to bragging camp, so get ready. I haven't finished out of the top 3 in points since 2012. That's the first year I raced in that division, and I won the championship that year. I've either been 1st, 2nd, or 3rd since 2012. That's 7 years. It's pretty good. So, and I tell you what, when the season started this year, the names that were in that division, and I think at one time I was like 8th in points. I'm like, man, if I get a top 5 in points, I'll be lucky. So, I did come in strong in the end, and I finished 2nd.
You're having a Jimmy Johnson year.
Yeah, and me and Elliot always joke. At Wall Stadium, you want to finish 2nd in points because if you've ever been to the Banquet, 2nd place gets like a 6-foot trophy. The championship champion gets a cup, like a smaller cup. It's a nice trophy. Don't get me wrong, but it's only like a foot tall and it's a big cup on a piece of marble. So I'm like, I want the big trophy this year at the Banquet. I'm going to finish 2nd in points.
Hey, I finished 4th in points once.
Yeah,
that was fun. Hey, I got a cool trophy out of it.
That was a good year for you, Josh, because it's a long year for to do that. You made all the races that year, right? You didn't miss a race that year, did you?
I made every race.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of work. A lot of people start, and I always tell people, I'm like, don't even think about the points until July, because a lot of people start once summer gets real hot and things are going on in the summer. People start missing races. You really know who's really racing for it come August. You know what I'm saying? You'll see who's left. You know.
No, it was definitely a long year. I remember
the racing was good.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Josh.
I was just going to say I did have that one race. I had to borrow a car.
I mean, that happens too. You know, stuff breaks, and then because you are in points, people are like, hey, you're fourth in points. I want to keep your points going. Here, go ahead, jump in this car, you know, and they'll get out of their cars because they're not racing for points, and they let you drive their car. Points are tricky. I mean, I always joke around. I always say points are for basketball. We're here to win races. And really, Tim, you know how the points all got started, right, in racing in general?
No.
It was basically just fake money. It's something NASCAR started in the 50s to get these guys to travel and go to all these races. You know what I'm saying? Instead of giving them purse money, they started a point system, you know? And the points are cool if there's a point payout at the end of the year. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, remember when we had that, we had a points race on like Memorial Day weekend or something like that. It was on a Sunday. And if it weren't for the points, a lot of drivers wouldn't have shown up.
And Josh, how many times have you heard the term double points? How many times have you ever heard the term double purse?
Fair point.
So there you go. Points are basically funny money. It's just a way a promoter can give you something without giving you something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it all depends how you want to look at points. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it also shows consistency. I mean, you can.
It does. Dedication, consistency. It sure does. I mean, there's definitely pride in winning championships. Like I said, every points championship I had, I took pride in winning. But when it really comes down to it, and you really look at it, points are unless there's like in NASCAR, there's a huge point fund. So then it's more than just funny money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There is a big payout in the end, but NASCAR started that 100 years ago. It was just a promotional thing to get racers to go to every race. That's how points started.
Oh, Scott, you know what I just realized? You started the tradition of the factory stock Facebook page having their profile picture be the current champion.
Oh, really? Now we got to switch to the Elliott Wall.
Yeah, and I know just the picture to use.
Use up with that picture.
They should make T-shirts with that picture on it.
I'm going to get a coffee mug with it.
All right, Josh, let's hit the top 10 for the modified race.
Okay, the modified race, 40-lapper. Eric Moriello doing very well, getting the win, followed by Eddie McCarthy, Derek Hopkinson, Tyler Truex, Stephen Reed, Chris Andretta, Jason Treat, Kenny Van Wickle, Sean Carrig, and Kevin Davison.
Another funny thing that happened at the end of that modified race, and we want to congratulate Stephen Reed on his win and his father, Harry. They've been racing over there for years and years and years, and I think that's Stephen's third modified championship now. So congratulations to that family. But a funny thing I noticed when the race was over, Stephen was doing donuts on the front straightaway, and he was tacking that motor up pretty good. And Harry's old school like me. I'm not a donut guy. I think it's hard on equipment. It's hard on the transmission. It's hard on the rear. It's hard on the valve train and the motor. I just don't do donuts. It's hard on the equipment. Everybody sees the guys at the cup level doing it, but guess what? That motor ain't getting used again. That motor's getting pulled out and junked anyway. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So they can tear it down. They can burn it down. I just seen Harry take his headset off, and he had the most pissed off look I ever seen on a man's face when Steven was out there doing those donuts. He's like, why is he tearing my equipment up? So it was just kind of funny. They won a championship. All the other divisions, the families are jumping up and down, yelling and screaming. I just see Harry with a look of disgust because Steven's out there doing donuts with his engine. It was just a little funny side story I had. But congratulations to the Reed family for winning the championship. Let's do the Sportsman Top 10.
Sportsman Top 10, 25 laps. Shannon Monjo gets the win. Eric Lane, Jarrett DiGiantomaso, Jake Nelke, Michael Rising, Kyle Sisko, Tommy Martino, Karsten DiGiantomaso, Thomas Stanionis, and Jonathan Leray.
That was a good race, too. I enjoyed the Sportsman race. Number one, Shannon ran a great race again. That was the second win in a row for Tim Steffen. We all like Tim Steffen on the show, so it was cool to see that race car get 2 wins in a row with Shannon driving. Eric Lane, he ran really good too. They were really setting some great lap times, and they were both really fast at the end of that race. But it was exciting because Kyle Sisko, he had to finish like, I think it was like 7th or 8th or more, and for a while he was in the back, and he had make it through some wrecks and some bumping and grinding, and I think he almost got spun one time. He had to miss a lot of wrecks. It was nail biting for that points championship. So once again, just like the Reeds, the Siskos have been around racing forever. A little side note: Brian Sisko, that is Kyle Sisko's father. He helped me build my first race car. Remember that, Tim? We had that Malibu out of the junkyard at Blewitz. Brian actually put my first roll cage together for me. He welded it up for me and helped me put it in the car, and he welded it to the frame.
And how old were you?
16 years old.
He wasn't even old enough to drive a car to the race car.
I just knew it. With my limited money, and back then you had to be 18 to race at Walsingham. I said, well, if I start building a car now, give me 2 years to get it built, and when I'm 18, it'll be done. And I knew Brian from Farmingdale. Him and his father had JB Race Fab in Farmingdale. I used to work in the pizza place when I was a kid at Dougal's Pizza, and Brian and his father used to come in and get pizza, and I got talking to them. I said, listen, I want to build a race car. Can you guys help me out? And they're like, yeah. And I went to the junkyard over Blewitz, got a Malibu, and I bought a Canadian stock car roll cage, and Brian welded it up for me and helped me put it in the car, and he helped me do the front hoop and the rear hoop and mount the fuel cell, and his father is phenomenal, which is Kyle Sisko's grandfather, John Sisko, phenomenal sheet metal guy. He helped me with the firewall and the dashboard. So, yeah, I mean, Brian's been around racing forever. That's a home-built race car. Kyle had a great year. Congratulations to them on winning their championship.
You got to mention Rich Hallgren in that too.
Oh yeah, Kyle was saying thanking Uncle Rich Hallgren. I know Rich goes and works on that car every night, and Rich has been a Sisko family friend forever. He used to race out of that JB Race Fab shop over there on Cranberry Road in Farmingdale, and Rich is a big part of that team. And Brian even credited, if it wasn't for Rich, they would have never made it a full season. So I know Rich is a valuable team member. So congratulations to Rich Hallgren too.
Rich Hallgren's knowledge is just, he'd be like, yeah, you need part number A243 for that to fix that. And he just knows everything.
Rich Hallgren was always a low buck racer, but I never seen anybody more organized than Rich Hallgren. He could show up in an open trailer in a pickup with a cap on it, and everything had shelves. Everything was in a little tackle box or a case, and he had little bolt bins, and he was just very, very organized. He was a very good racer. Raced very well for what he had.
Excellent.
Funny story about when they were building that car. I'll never forget it. We were down there, and I think it was Brian. I don't think it was John. Remember he went to read the area of the racing news, and it was full of lettuce from a sandwich. You remember that?
There was a tomato in it. He said the mailman was sitting on the side.
Mailman reading my racing paper while he's eating his lunch.
he said the mailman must have been eating a hoagie and reading my newspaper because they have his hoagie my newspaper. That was a cool race shop, Josh. You would have liked it. It was out behind their house. It looked like an old barn. They had like a phone on the wall out there and a TV out there and a coffee maker. They'd sit out there and work on race cars. They built some really nice race cars out of that shop, and I was glad to be one of them.
Now I'm hungry.
All right, so that's the sportsman division. Let's do the late model division next.
Sure. Hang on. I went to the wrong page. Okay, so late models, 25-lap feature, Shannon Monjo again with the win, followed by Chris Silvestri in second, Mike Tollett, the Rooster in third, Jim Mormon, Greg Gastelou, Andy Gamble, and Michelle Mormon.
All right, and now we'll move to the factory stock RPM top 11.
Just for you, Scott. Brian O'Shea gets the win, number 2 in a row there.
That's 5 for a year. I think that's 5 for the season for Brian. He won 3 in the beginning of the year, and then he went on a little bit of a dry spell, and then he won the last 2. And I think that tied him with Elliott. I think Elliott had five wins as well. So they both had 5 wins on the season.
Yeah, I think he had a lot of wrong place, wrong time, kind of just tough luck things too.
He also said they lost their good motor in the beginning. Yeah. They overheated it, and they had to take it back, and they were using their backup motor for a long time, and they finally got their good motor back.
I hate how much the motor matters. I hate that.
Yeah.
I want it to be more about handling so I can actually learn to drive better kind of a thing,
You really need both over there, to be honest. Yeah. You need motor and everybody's so fast now.
Oh, yeah. It's a tough division. Second was Elliott Wall. and then Mike Montano, Shannon Monjo, Scott Riggleman, Joey Helberg, Jerry Koenig, Matt Bedessa, Robert Cizinski, Kevin Flores, and in 11th was Nancy Riggleman. I'm assuming that was on the lead lap, too.
The lead lap. She had a good race.
Good. Let's see. Let's do the legends next.
And Elliot Wall took the championship. Congratulations. Yes. Championship.
I thought you took that back.
Nah.
You'll let it go?
Yeah, I'll let it go. I'm over
it. The legend cars. The champion was Sean Verwees, as we talked about. The winner of the race was Richie Davidowitz, followed by Kevin Nowak, Sean Verwees, Mason McGee, Rob Silver, Peter Bruno, Joe McGrath, Joe Prisbalinski, Quinn Trimmer, and Jim Downey. That rounds out your top 10. We should do the 4 cylinders after that.
Just real quick on the INX Legend Car race, that made it a little more confusing. I think Sean Verwees ended up only winning by 1 point. But what made that real confusing is that division with the INX rules, you're allowed to drop 2 races. So meaning you're allowed to drop 2 of your worst finishes. And also if you want to go away, then that's one of your drop races. So that made it more confusing. So
they do that in the Sunday series too. I totally disagree with that. I think that's stupid. I think it doesn't reward the people that support you the most.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you want to go camping on weekend,
go camping. Then you're not racing for points. It's that simple. If you want to race for points, you make sacrifices. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, it was that race got a little confusing. I know there was some heated discussion after the races about what races got dropped and how the points were figured out, and it kind of got ugly there at the end. So I don't know enough about it, but I know there were some unhappy people about the drop race scenario and how it all went down.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know nearly enough about that division. It was good to see that Roger made it back out, though.
He was racing?
Yeah, he finished last, but he made it out there.
He was definitely in somebody else's car because he wasn't there in his, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think he had something put together for that.
I saw Roger. I didn't get a chance to talk to him, but I did see Nancy talking to him. So he was there and he was in good spirits. So it was glad to see Roger back at the racetrack after his scary accident last week.
Yeah, definitely. He's a good guy, really good guy, too. I mean, he dedicates a lot of time to that track. And the green flag experience as well. So.
Yeah, he's there all the time.
I
he's
swear.
more than a racer at that racetrack. He works there. He's an official. He paints there. He's a handyman. He, like you said, he works the green flag driving experience.
He's there for the Sunday series too.
Is he really? He's there for the Sunday series too. So that guy's totally dedicated to Wall Stadium.
100%. A great guy. So moving on to the 4 cylinders, 25-lap feature. Ronnie Mullen gets the win, followed by Alonzo Morales, Neil Rutt III, Sal Ligori, Nicole Rosano, Todd Deege, Jeffrey Loesch, Ryan Marr, Cody Critelli, Brian Barbalacci, that covers it. I already went right through the top 10. And
congratulations, Neil Rutt III. He's a member of the RP podcast, good friend of the show.
I'm kind of confused. He wasn't begging to come on the show this week.
Well, he's big time now. He's a champion. He ain't gonna talk to us no more. But yeah, congratulations to Neil Rutt III. I mean, Tim, how do you feel about this? I think this is one of many. I think he's gonna have a great career in racing and win more championships.
In more than one division, I think Kyle Sisko's gonna have a lot more in future. The 4-cylinders, 4-cylinder champion this year. Neil Rutt will definitely move up, and they'll have great success, I think, for as long as the track's open. It's going to be good. Those deep town Masso kids they're good drivers. There's a lot of good talent coming up through there.
Yeah.
It's like Stephen Reed's the veteran now.
Yeah, exactly. He's not the little kid now. He's the veteran.
He's not the little kid running around the chicken coops anymore. At the race car shop. He's the veteran now.
Right.
I guess it's a sign of the times that we're all getting older. But yeah. I think there's a lot of good future race car drivers, so I think it's good.
Another thing I want to mention, Josh, that was announced at the drivers' meeting is the banquet. The banquet's going to be held February 9th at the same place it was last year. That's the golf course in Farmdale. It used to be called Shore Oaks.
That's I'm going to start putting that in my phone.
Yeah, it's a little late this year, but yeah, it's February 9th at I used to call it Shore Oaks. I don't know what it's called now. When I worked there, it was called Shore Oaks.
Isn't it
It's
Eagle
still,
Oaks or something?
Eagle Oaks. Yeah, it's called Eagle Oaks Golf Course now in Farmingdale.
All right, Sunday. Okay, let me add a thing. You know what
And
time?
not to go to brag and not. No, I don't know what time. It's usually during the day. Is that a Saturday, Josh, or is that a Sunday?
It's a Sunday.
Yeah, it's usually early. It's usually like 3:00 on a Sunday. They have it. They said February 9th this year. A little Scott Riggleman story. I actually built that golf course. Tim, you remember that? I worked there before it was even open. I helped.
Any seashells in there?
No, there was a lot of turtles though. I helped clear all the lands, make the fairways, do the greens.
What machine were you using?
I was only I think I was 16 or 17 when I worked there. It was one of my first jobs while I was in high school. I just helped the landscape crew. Helped dig holes to plant trees and everything like that.
Okay.
It's a real nice golf course.
I wasn't sure if you were. I was picturing you on a bulldozer.
That's actually a Jack Nicklaus designed golf course, and he was actually there when we were working on it. Phil Simms was another guy that helped design that golf course. The famous Giants quarterback. He was there a lot. Lawrence Taylor was there a few times.
The coach was the Giants coach. The Giants coach at that time. He had something to do with that too. Didn't he?
Bill Parcells. He helped design it. A lot of Giants football people, and Jack Nicklaus, the famous golfer. So yeah, it's cool. It's cool to keep having it there. It's
and that banquet, if you've ever been to it, they do a good job. That's an impressive banquet.
Just so you know, anybody can go. Like, they send out invitations to the top 10, so everybody thinks because they don't get invited, they're not allowed to go. But it's open. Anybody can buy a ticket and go. I mean, if anybody wants to go and that's just a fan and wants to sit at my table, you're more than welcome to. Just let me know, and I can put you down on my table and just buy a ticket and you can sit with us. You know what I'm saying?
You want a posse at
it just every year people are like, oh, I wish I was invited to the banquet. No, they send invitations out to the top 10 in points.
That was me last year. I was saying that.
Yeah, but everybody thinks because they're not invited they can't go. No, it's open to anybody, but she only sends invitations out to the top 10 in points because you're receiving an award, and she needs to know if you're going to be there or not. You know what I'm saying? But anybody can buy a ticket and go. It's just like going to the race. And it's cool. Like Tim said, it's great food. It's a beautiful banquet hall. They usually have a comedian there that's funnier than hell, And, of course, I'm going to have to show that comedian that picture of Elliot in Victory Lane so he can make fun of that.
That's going to be awesome.
Yeah. They have music, dancing, the award ceremony. It's a great time. It's really cool seeing your fellow racers at a banquet when you're not in a competition situation, and you can just have fun, go and have fun with your people you race with every Saturday night.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go this year, or technically next year.
I don't know if you want to do anything about New Egypt. I never heard.
Hold on, I got the food for Wall Stadium Saturday. Okay. They had Reuben sandwiches.
Oh wow!
Bang shrimp and homemade chicken noodle soup was on the.
I see bang shrimp all over the place. What exactly is bang shrimp?
I don't know. I ain't never had it.
Josh, look that up real quick. What makes it bang? Is it like spicy?
It's probably like got hot sauce on it or something.
Yeah, I see that bang.
I try not to eat seafood at the racetrack. It just doesn't sound right.
Tim's got a rule: if you can't see the sea, you don't eat seafood.
I did have a cheeseburger. That was very good. I usually don't eat at Wall Stadium because we don't live that far away, so I usually go home and eat. But being there longer, I did have a cheeseburger, and it was very good.
Let's see. I'm looking here. God, they have to write all about their damn thing instead of just give me the recipe. Tools used in making of the bang shrimp. Thai. I'm reading it off the damn page. Thai sweet chili sauce, sriracha, Dutch oven. I'm thinking the wrong thing there.
Oh boy.
Oil thermometer, shrimp diviner.
So it's got Thai sauce on it.
Yeah, so it's basically spicy sauce and sriracha sauce.
Mayonnaise, 1 pound shrimp shelled and deveined. Sorry. Buttermilk, cornstarch, canola oil.
So they're deep fried then. They got a cornstarch coating on them?
Yeah. Yeah, canola oil for frying. And then
if anybody had the bang shrimp, please comment in the comment sections.
I don't know why we're talking.
I don't eat seafood.
Some nice guy, Joe, came up to me and said how great He loves the podcast. He listens to very much. I had 4 or 5 people come up and ask when we're going to do our other podcast. Racing season's almost over. We got Thompson and then the spooky race. I do want to talk about the spooky race because it's called something else. But anyway, we'll get back to our other podcast after that. My question to you, Scott, is they're calling that spooky race something else, something like.
Well, no, I've seen it listed as the spooky race, and I've also been calling it like something zombie.
Boogeyman Bingo.
Yeah, that's something they're doing.
Does that mean? Oh, that's something they're doing in the grandstand.
Yeah, something they're doing in the grandstand.
I thought maybe it had something to do with the points, like a poker race or something.
No, I think it's something they're doing in the grandstands. They're handing out like bingo cards or something at the gate. But yeah, at first it was called like the Boogeyman Bingo Race, and then I noticed lately they've been calling it the Spooky again. So I think it's back to the Spooky, but they're doing Boogeyman Bingo or something in the grandstands.
Another thing I want to mention: did you guys see that post today on the Wall Stadium message board that grandparents brought their grandkids to the track?
Yeah, I did see that. I liked it. Yeah.
Yeah, and really that's what I've been saying all year. People are coming, and they're coming back. So they're doing the right thing over there. Yeah. And I heard they ran out of ketchup Saturday. Tizzy said they ran out of.
that was during Napa night.
Tizzy said they ran out again. So I don't know what's
because I wasn't there. That's why.
Hey, I guess that back trip was so hot, people had to dump ketchup on it to cool it off.
I had gotten chicken fingers too, and Tizzy usually brings me ketchup down. She didn't have ketchup, so I had to go steal ketchup from Johnny O's funnel cake wagon. So I owe Johnny O a little bit of ketchup.
I'm sure it's okay. Let's see. The Legends of the Fall. We do have should have some results here. I'll just go with the 2 features real quick, and then we're going to go into the Sunday series. So the top 10 for the first feature is Billy Pouch Jr., Dwayne Howard, Brandon Grosso, David Van Horn, Danny Book, Billy Osmond, Frank Causey, Mike Butler, Ryan Cratchin, and Tommy Beamer. Now, if I can not click on
Frank Causey was there, boy.
So that's good. We watched him when we were kids. Frank Causey. Sorry, Josh, but
okay.
When Jimmy ran Syracuse that one of the years he ran there, I spotted for him, and there was this guy sitting on the other side of the fire with like an old Coney shock jacket on from like the 80s. He's just sitting over there minding his own business. And I asked one of the guys, the dirt guy, I'm a fish out of water up there. I'm like, who's that sitting over there with that old shock jacket on? He's like, that's Frank Causey. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. I went over there and I introduced myself, and I told Frank Causey I was a big fan of him, and me and him sat there till the sun came up. Talk about stories. He said one time, Scott, he went to Syracuse, and Ron Hutter gave him a carburetor in a cardboard box. He says, put this on your race car, but don't touch it. He took it out of the box. It was it had silicone all around it. Like a kid just put silicone, wrapped it in silicone, squirted the whole tube on it, and rubbed it all over the thing. He called Ron Hutter up, and Ron, it's like, this carburetor's got like silicone. It's like, don't touch it, just run it. He put it on the car. He went out with the other carburetor, and he did whatever. They did like 20 seconds, we'll say. He comes back in, they bought that carburetor, he did 18 seconds.
Really? Knocked 2 seconds.
There was fuel just leaking out of it. That's why the silicone was on. He called Ron Hutter up, and he's like, what do you think of that carburetor? Because I went 2 seconds faster, but it's leaking a lot of fuel out of it. He goes, don't touch it. Leave it on your car. And he kept it on the car, though. He said he would have won the race, but I think he got a flat that he was running.
He might have ran out of gas.
I think he said he got a flat, though, but if I remember right. But
I don't know. A hot race engine and a leaking fuel carburetor, I don't go for that.
Ron Hutter said, don't touch it. Just drive it.
But make sure you wear your fire suit.
Yeah, what an amazing guy. Just listen to the stories. I'd love to have him on the podcast.
All right, Josh, it's 10:20. Let's get the New Egypt results in, and let's get we did the New Egypt results, right?
We have the second feature for New Egypt. That's going to be the Jim Hausworth for the win, Ryan Heim, Will Dupree, Joe Toth, Brandon Edgar, Jason Koch, Justin Grosso, Jeremy Martino, Glenn McIntyre, and Danny Carlo. So that's your top 10 for that. Then we can move on to the Wall Stadium Sunday Series. The World Formula Microstocks. Your winner was Bob Wagner, followed by Andrew Schuster, Tyler Wagner, Ryan Baxter, Dalton Rivera, Richie Tazinski, Mike Fox Jr., Jeff Weinecker, Joe Gary, and Josh Barry. And that's not the same Josh Berry as we were talking about earlier before the show, right? Modified microstocks. We have Mike Brennan, Tom Irvin, Mike Fox Jr., Josh Barry, Ashley Tyler, Jim Van Dyne, Kylie Glotzby, Corinne Kazmierski. The senior champ carts. We have Mike Brennan, Joe Parker, and Mike Berner. The junior champ carts. Will Cloud, Alex Greats, Mike Hall, Eric Zank, and Tyler Ritchie. The Sportsman Blue, Alex Rogers, Chevy Romney, Aiden Greats. Sportsman Red, we have Darren Krantz, Alexis Riggleman, Howie Conk Jr., Kevin Davison Jr., and Bailey Riggleman. The Kid Carts, we have Kellen Okerson and JC. The 206 class, we have Mike Berner, Mike Brennan, Kerry Irwin, and Jim Hall. That rounds out that. I'm going to have a press release thing that I'm going to hopefully share to the page in a little while.
Tim, was that their last points race, or do they still have a points race?
We got one more.
Still got one more points race?
Yeah, this weekend I won't be there because I'll be at Thompson. There's a couple things I want to say. There was good racing there this week. Mike Brennan and some other guy actually got swapping where they were running each other a little hard, and they got into a little altercation after the race. And you little heated there. That was a good thing. I wanted to say that what's his name? Mark's brother,
Danny Rogers.
Danny Rogers, who's married to Brooke Flockhart, who was Kevin Flockhart's sister. He was champion at Wall Stadium in the modifieds, I guess it was then, and their little daughter started racing in the go-karts. She went down, and like I said before, it didn't even look like it was running. She was going so slow. You know, she got, excuse me, by the end of the night, she was going around, she was getting better and better, so she's said, I got talking to Brooke after it was over, and she said they have two daughters, and one daughter doesn't want anything to do with it, and the little one is all about racing, so it's another racing family. Two racing families come together to make another race car driver. And the third thing I wanted to say is when my kids first started racing, of course, I don't particularly like to work on race cars, so I had to figure out how I was going to get these race cars set up and fixed. And I went and I was spotting for Anthony Cecily, and Bernie Olander is like the, for lack of a better term, is like the Rob Ormsby at Wall Stadium of the go-karts. He's got an Olander race prep, and that's who you go to when you want your go-kart fixed. And he totally took my daughters under his wing and did whatever he could to help them. Went out of his way to help them. And he's actually moving to Florida. So last Sunday was his last time there. I just wanted to thank him for everything he did for my kids. And he will be missed.
He's not going to the races anymore?
He's moving to Florida.
Oh, really? Guess your kids will have to start racing in Florida.
You can do that. Smyrna runs them.
Yeah, they sure do.
The other thing I did want to mention, the King of the Green was Saturday. I don't have results for that right now. As we get them, we'll try to share them. They were supposed to race Sunday as well, but the forecast was just horrendous, so they postponed it to October 20th. They wanted to do it on the 19th, but that's the date of Wall Stadium's Spooky Spectacular. So they actually moved it to the 20th so they wouldn't conflict, because they know a lot of people want to run that as well. Now, Scott, you had mentioned that we want to talk real quick about Josh Berry, not Barry.
Oh no, they got the SK race done at Evergreen. Matt Hirschman won, and Paul Hartwig was second.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the first time Paul's been in the car in 2 years, and he dusted that Evergreen modified off, and he said I talked to him before he went up there. He said he was a little nervous about being rusty, but he knew his car was always fast up there, and he's just worried about himself because he hasn't been in the car in a while. And he even admitted himself in practice and stuff in the heat race he was rusty. He said about halfway through the feature he really got his rhythm going again, and he was able to finish second. He beat some pretty good names up there too.
Yeah,
who
the best? Good, Josh.
No, go ahead.
The best video of the weekend was Little Paulie driving the 4-cylinder around up there.
He also little Paulie also raced a Bandolero up there, and he was able to take out. Friday was just a practice day up there. They just had like open practice all day up there, and little Paulie was able to jump into Scott Adams's 4-cylinder car that hit. I don't know if it's Scott Adams' daughter or son that races that car, but they have a 4-cylinder up there. You're allowed to race at 12 years old up there, so they put little Paulie in it for some practice laps, and it was cool seeing him out there in a big car.
The kid's a good driver. He really is. I know Paul puts a lot of effort into getting his car right and everything, and I know they've had some very, very great, gracious people helping them out with tire bills and things like that. But Paulie can drive. He really can. So, I mean, I can't wait to see what becomes of that kid, in the future.
It was funny just listening to Lisa, typical mom. The first quarter, she's like, "Oh, I don't know about this," and then as he was getting better and better, she started cheering after. She got over being scared real quick after he started doing real good.
It's a Lisa thing, right, Tim?
It's a race and mother thing, I guess. Yeah.
Oh, I was just making because my wife's Lisa.
Yeah. Yep, I hear you. It was good. It was a good car and everything up there, right, Scott? Everything.
What's that?
The pits and everything were full up there, correct?
Yeah. It's a shame. It's a shame that Saturday was perfect for them. It's a shame that there was bad weather on Sunday and they had to cancel on Sunday because they were really having a great weekend up there. A lot of cars were there. A lot of people attended. There was campers out in the parking lot. Unfortunately, they did cancel early though, which was kind of cool because like Ron Freese was planning on racing Evergreen, and they canceled early enough where Ron Freese could change his plans and come race Wall.
Right.
So they tell people that they were postponing Sunday until they can't race next weekend up there because Mahoney Valley's having their big race, so they're having it the day after Spooky, like you just said. So they made a smart call, and I guess it did rain up there, so. They called it early and they had a backup plan. So hope everybody supports the race when they do finally race it. Another thing we want to touch base on, Tim had a couple of weeks ago spotted for Josh Berry up at New Hampshire Speedway in the K&N East. But Josh Berry's full-time gig is he drives Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s late model car. And he was able to win that big late model race down in Martinsville Speedway. They have a 300-lap race at the end of the year, every year down there. And Josh Berry sat on the pole, led the most laps. They say, led from flag to flag, but I think what they meant by that, from the green flag to the checker. But I don't think I'm not 100% sure about it. I really don't think he led all 300 laps, but he might have. I don't know. But he did win down there. It was a huge late model race. They had like over 80 late models down there trying to qualify for this race, and he was able to win. And it paid $44,000 to win. So congratulations to Josh Berry. We're just mentioning that because there's a connection with Josh Berry and my brother because my brother has spotted for him. So congratulations to Josh Berry for winning that huge late model race down there.
He's not a rich kid either. He's doing it the old-fashioned way. Very, very thankful.
And he's had been in NASCAR. Like he made it to like the Xfinity Series, and it didn't really work out for him. So he did take a step back, and he's back in the late models, and he's making a good living doing it in the late model division because they do have some huge races. And he's like a Bubba Pollard, Tim, and Bubba Pollard was his teammate in that race. They also had another Dale Jr. late model, and then Bubba Pollard was racing. So he beat all the big names. I mean, there's Timothy Peters was down there racing. I mean, every big name in late model was down there racing. Lee Pullum, all those guys, and Josh Berry really beat him pretty soundly down there. So congratulations to Josh. Maybe he learned something from you spotting a couple of weeks ago, Tim, that helped him in that race.
I'm sure he did.
All right, guys, it's getting late. I want to move to what have we learned.
All right, we'll start with Tim.
I had a bunch of them. I forgot them now. There was one where you don't want your axle to slip out of the hole. We're talking about the axle. There was a couple other ones now. I'm still very disturbed by Elliott Wall's photo. That really
we all
are. All kidding aside, and Elliott Wall has told the story.
Elliott Wall able to fill the hole.
So, we've been friends with Elliott for a very long time. He's almost like our little brother. And Stephen Reed, too. We grew up all together at the chicken coops down there at Elliott's. But I no longer will. Scott, if you go down to Elliott's, you sit on that couch down there, and I think I'm going to be a little worried about what's going on down there now. I don't know if I'd be
Josh,
hanging
you
out.
might have to post that picture on the RPM podcast Facebook just so people know what we're talking about.
That's
don't
fine.
have it up there long. Have it up there for like a day or two.
Well, I know what Tim's afraid of if he goes down there.
Big L looking to stick it in there on the inside of Riggleman.
Oh boy.
So is that everything you learned?
Yeah, I learned I'm not going camping with Elliot Wall anytime soon. I know that.
All right. How about you, Scott?
Basically, all I learned was bang bang shrimp is spicy shrimp. So I can't eat spicy food, so I'll stay away from the bang bang shrimp. I also learned that that's about it. That's all I learned.
All right. Today I learned that Scott started building a race car before he was old enough to drive to the track, and it was also before he was old enough to steal his dad's ramp truck. I learned that sometimes the AARN comes with free lettuce. I learned that Scott wants to have a posse at the banquet, and I learned that Tim had a romantic evening with Frank Cozy.
I did. That was awesome. I didn't
They
kiss
watched
the
the
guy.
sunrise and everything.
I didn't kiss the guy though. God.
There was no cell phone pictures back then. We're not sure if that happened or not.
I was just gonna say something else, and then I totally forgot what it was. What was your first that you learned?
Me?
Fine.
Me?
Oh, Josh.
That Scott started building a race car before he was old enough to drive. And
Oh
before
yeah. That's
Okay.
shocking my memory. Another story about that is back in those days. John's grandfather's junkyard used to. They had the Neptune police cars were in there, like the ones that were impound, and you weren't allowed to touch them. Grandpa and me, "Oh, can't touch those. Can't touch those. Well, it just happened to be that the only car that Scott wanted was a Neptune police impound car. That one disappeared. We never did get in trouble for that, so I guess it's okay to talk about it now.
Well, they used to write
NP.
NPD on it.
Yeah.
Neptune Police Department. Well, I went up to John Jr. said I found a '74 Malibu. That was the hot ticket back then. You know how we're all using Monte Carlos now, Josh. Back then it was the bigger cars. The '74 Monte Carlos were the hot setup. The bigger wheelbase Montes. So I went up to John Jr. I said, "Hey man, I found a car. I want it." He's like, "All right, we'll just take it." I said, "Well, it doesn't have keys." He's like, "Oh, it's a Noki. It's a Noki." I'm like, "What's a Noki?" "Oh, that car's a Noki." I'm like, "Well, is that a fast car? Is that a good car to build a race car?" He's like, "Noki, no keys, no Noki." So he went down there and busted the lock out of it for me to get it in neutral, and he never said it being a Neptune police car, so we took that one.
Remember, Little John came over and the window was still. You can't take that car. Remember?
That's a Neptune police car. I said, "Your dad busted the lock out of it for me."
Well,
I
then
don't
I
know.
broke the window. I go, now it's not because it was on the window.
All right, guys. Well, that wraps up episode 150.
Well, no. I talked to Jimmy Blewett today. A lot of people ask about Jimmy Blewett.
He was at Dover. I did notice that Jimmy went down to Dover.
He did go to Dover. He said he had to sit in the car for a lot of it because of his foot hurting him. But he is up and around. He's back to physical therapy. He was out in the shop for the first time today. Actually, I went over there and sat with him, make sure he didn't fall down. And the race car looks exactly like it did when they took it out of the trailer, except for the body was off. Somebody had taken the body off for him. He's getting back together. He's starting his therapy. He is still optimistic about Turkey Derby. He says he's not 100% sure, but he's optimistic about Turkey Derby, and he's working on the dirt car. He's got something to do with the dirt car. I guess there's a race later on after Turkey Derby that I don't know about. So that's it. He's doing better. He's getting ready to come back. So,
All right, guys.
We'll
that
wish him the
wraps up.
best.
Yeah, we wish Jimmy the best, and continue to heal and get. Whenever you're ready and you're healed up, come back racing, and don't rush. When you come back, you come back. All right, guys. That wraps up episode 153 of the RPM podcast. Do not go to Wall this weekend. Wall is closed this weekend.
Thompson.
Oh yeah, World Series of Thompson. If you're looking for a good race, the World Series of Thompson. Mahoney Valley's having a huge race weekend up there. Go check that out. But following week, come back into Wall Stadium for the Spooky race in 2 weeks. All right, guys, go to Wall.
Have a good
Go
night.
to Wall.